It's May the 5th. This is the day on which the stormtroopers missed the 4th. That's
Oh,
the extent of my Star Trek jokes. I mean, Star Wars. Sorry. Oh well. Okay. Um. Anyway, Adam, who's not here yet, suggested a book nook. So when Adam book nook, book notes, what did he call book nook segment?
Book
That's
Nook, yeah.
right. So when he gets here, we'll talk about that. But hey, Jeff, how do you feel about show and tell?
Okay, hold on a second.
Okay, I'll let you get set. Um, Later, when Greg gets home, he's going to tell us about some work that he's been doing on his version of Wordle for the Sinclairs because he's trying to make it all the things Sinclairs. And I feel like I had another thing to mention, but it has slipped my brain. Oh, yes, Thomas. Thomas has written not one, but two songs in the space of 20 or 30 minutes um, for us. And I'm kind of hoping that either he can play them and we can get the audio to feed through, or I'll try to play them and get the audio to feed through. I have not listened to them yet. Um, I think Jeff said that they were amusing. And think I see one new person. Hey, Chris.
Wow, there's more than one Chris. Oh, it's me.
Hey,
Hi.
hang on. Let me remove the spotlight. Chris, who the heck are you?
I don't know. You tell me. I'm originally from the UK. I live in California where I've lived for 29 years. My first computer as a kid was a Sinclair Spectrum 16K. The first computer I used in someone's home was a ZX80, followed by a ZX81. Things moved quickly before I managed to get mine. And yeah, I live in California. I'm a software engineer. And I've got a bit of a collection addiction. And of course, if you grew up on Sinclairs, then you have to also collect Sinclair computers and all their varieties. So yeah,
What?
that's
I see a Spectrum next over your shoulder, but
oh yeah.
what's the white thing over your other shoulder? Oh, where'd you go, Chris?
This?
Yeah, that.
Oh, well, I think I have a form of OCD. So once you've got every single Sinclair product, then you get all the Timex products. And then until you find out there's actually more that you didn't get. And then you realize the Eastern Europeans did a lot of clones. So I had started to collect clones too.
Oh, okay, like the didactics and stuff.
Right, right.
Okay, cool, very nifty. I love how your camera follows you around. That's very helpful.
I guess it's a feature on new Macs.
That's really cool. All right, so do you have a 2068?
Do I have a 2068? Yeah.
And it's your main computer, right? It's your daily driver.
You know, and not none of them none of them are really my main computer nowadays. Um, that's not really a particularly exotic Sinclair, um, or Sinclair variant. I've also got like a lot of adjacent things, so like a Cambridge Mark 14,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
uh, or else something quite rare because for a while people claimed they didn't exist, but the Vegas.
Oh, the Vega.
Um, what about this stack of
Oh my
different
Lord, I've never seen
ZX?
one of those in person. You're gonna have to go.
Yeah, I need to strip
What
this
is that?
apart.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, yeah, Chris,
Yeah,
give
What
us.
does it do?
it's for the ZX81. and it's a stack of different types of expansions.
Yeah,
So what's this?
the mini map.
Mini map. I think it's some kind of IO device.
Yep,
Then if we take the
a
next one
little
off, that's
part.
a 16K RAM.
Yep.
Um,
No.
then we have a 64K RAM. Um, another 64.
Oh my gosh.
Sonos, which I think is some kind of audio.
I think so. Yeah, it's been a while since I've
I've never tried to boot this thing up. Pericom, which is I think a bunch of IO.
Uh-huh.
They made disk drives, right, Percom?
But I also collect a lot of Atari and
Yeah.
good stuff. And I in my other room, as I said, I've got a bit of a Jason problem. Once you've acquired all the Atari made disk drives, then you go through all the adjacent ones. So Pericom, Indus,
The ATR 8000 with their
Arana.
drives, if you can get them.
yeah, I have one of those.
Yeah.
I have a serious collecting problem.
Got the Indus GT? You have to have that one.
Oh yeah, I have a couple of those. I also have the there's like a European rip-off of that. The it was like California Access or something it was called. It looks very much like the Indus GT.
That's the disk drive that drives costs like a Beetle but drives like a Ferrari. That's what that slogan was.
Right. And there's
Yeah.
even one of the Indus GT. I don't know if they all came this way, but I bought a couple on eBay, but one of them comes in this like really nice plastic carrying case. Like
That's really
Yeah, I heard you can use the CPU on one of them to actually run CPM.
That's right. You need to make sure you have to add some SRAM. There's like an SRAM daughter board, I believe.
on the Indus.
For the Indus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're gonna ask, are you Northern or Southern California?
Northern, the San Francisco Bay Area. Peninsula specifically.
I'm East Bay.
Oh, okay. We should go and drink some
There you go.
alcoholic beverage.
We actually have one
Oh.
other member who's on our list. It's works for Apple. He's in Sunny. I think he lives somewhere in Sunnyvale, if I remember correctly. But we do have a few in the, so all right. So I'm in Union City. So I'm just
Okay.
across the bay.
I'm in Belmont, straight over 92.
Oh my god.
Oh,
That's
okay.
awesome.
Yep.
Tim, you and Chris just need one more person, and then you'll be able to rival the Albuquerque group.
Compete,
Oh
exactly.
no, it
I'm
ain't gonna
get,
happen.
the other guy from the other guy I bought, Lewis, the guy I bought the Bill Mother collection with. So
Yes.
he's around somewhere. And there's supposed to be some guy in Fremont that I saw at West Coast Computer Fair. And short story, I'm riding down the road in town. I'm wearing my Sinclair QL shirt, and some guy yells out, "Like your shirt." I'm like, what?
What?
Turns out he lives in Fremont and he has a QL amongst his other collections. Doesn't use it, just has collected them. So
Well,
I'm gonna try and
that is
look
a
and get
slightly
him.
rare QL.
Is it the Shown keyboard?
Yeah, it's quite a nice keyboard. And it's a
I have the Jurgen Falkenberg keyboard interface, so I stopped using the regular keyboard and used the regular AT style, whatever. You know.
but you ever seen one of these?
A little higher.
Yeah, it's too low.
What on earth?
What?
Those are
M5?
cassettes.
It's like a stack of tapes.
Oh,
So
Hey,
this
David,
thing-
if he's gonna keep talking, maybe you can highlight him.
Yeah, I'll spotlight him again.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, it's got a stack of I think it's like it says Encyclopedia Britannica, but it's not really. I think it's a kind of a set of learning, language
Yeah.
learning tapes.
So I guess I missed the computer. What did
Oh,
you?
yeah, hold.
It's a Spectrum.
Oh, it's a Spectrum?
Yeah.
What's the
Oh,
your Mac
Oh,
following?
that's
camera
that
photo?
one with a telephone?
No. You're probably thinking
That's
of
the OPL.
the one per desk.
Yeah.
did I
Okay.
land in the wrong meeting or something this evening? What is happening? Like, what is all this stuff? I don't know what any of this is.
That is literally a Sinclair Spectrum embedded into some kind of custom case. It says at computer system. It's got a built-in tape deck and volume controls and stuff. I can take some pictures and upload them to somewhere useful, but
Cool.
and a cassette storage bin.
Yeah.
yeah. So I think there's a whole series of tapes. So I think it's some kind of learning system for probably learning English.
Yeah. Because it says
Someone
English.
OEM'd it.
Yeah. That's probably like the weirdest Sinclair thing I have.
Huh.
Anyway, sorry to take control of the meeting.
No. Chris, this is what we do. We get new people, we interrogate them.
Oh,
I mean, welcome them. We welcome them.
Yes, and he's given us all collector envy.
Exactly.
yeah. I'm
Uh-huh.
sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
No.
Of course, when you open the Sinclair Spectrum for the first day at Christmas, and it has that funky smell that has a special like polystyrene smell. Do you ever talk about that? The polystyrene smell?
No.
That you do.
About every 3 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, that new
There's a
computer
very
smell.
like the original Spectrums had this weird polystyrene. But the one thing that you would notice is like I can't remember how many tapes, but there was the Horizon tape, and that was they contracted Scion software to write the software for that. Well, of course, if you get the Scion software, then other than throwing, well, you have to start collecting Scions too. You keep going, but anyway, I told you I have OCD.
Is there anything in any room in your house that's not full of computers? Just out of curiosity.
Well, so I started to I think it's probably 15 years ago. The backstory, and I don't want sympathy, is my wife passed away, and therefore I had no one to control my spending.
Oh,
And I started to collect Amigas because later on I went from Sinclair to Atari to Amiga, and I collected, sorry.
go ahead.
And yeah, it went from like, oh, I didn't have that one to like, you get to some point where you have such a collection, you're like, I'm missing one. What am I missing? Like literally the Sinclair stuff, there's like the Timex 3-inch drives. I don't know if you've seen the ones that are from Portugal, the external 3-inch drive systems,
Mhm.
the FD2000s. Now it becomes it's like hunting. Now, can I get one of those? You start looking for where you can get a 2048, for instance, and you have to you become a bit of an eBay and other place troll, right? To try and get that stuff. So yeah, the sad news is no, there's not. There's not. I have a 2,500 square foot house, and it's become a complete hoarding mess of computers.
You're running your own museum. You just need to let people in. Look at it that way.
Right. It's unfortunately not the cheapest part in the country to like just a couple of friends we've talked about doing something like that, but there's nowhere cheap to just like that you could rent and afford to just have a place for people to come, right? And we have the Computer History Museum close by, who I loathe. I'm part of an Amiga community too, and
Wait, did you say you loathe them? As in, like, you do not like them?
I do not like the Computer History Museum.
Oh, I've never. Why is this? I've always heard good things.
Um,
You're on record. Don't forget. This goes on YouTube.
yeah. Well, we're doing an Amiga 40th there soon, so we'll see. It's been challenging to work with them in the past, and they've now like they've basically loaned out their facility. So there's a few reasons why I'm not too happy with them, and it's I think it's public knowledge. One, they've become a little bit religious. Literally, their facility isn't available on Sundays because they rent it out to a church. I have no problem with religion, but the Computer History Museum is supposed to be for computer history. The other one is there's been a lot of very nice donations, like the original wooden pet. or the Amiga serial number 1, and they're basically in a warehouse in Hayward, and they're not accessible. They have a 500-year archival plan, and that's the highest priority. So the idea of actually getting that stuff out for display at special occasions is kind of challenging. They have agreed, I believe, to bring out the Amiga serial number 1 for the Amiga 40th. But in general, it's a challenge to get them to show some of the real artifacts. I mean, nobody wants to see a grubby Amiga that somebody donated them from their bedroom, right? You really want to see some of the rarer, meaningful artifacts. But home computers are not a big deal for the Computer History Museum. They have a much bigger focus on industrial stuff.
Their display on home computers is very lacking. Yes,
it is. I mean, literally, computers.
That 1401 and stuff take up a lot of space.
Well, they've got a big building, so
they do. They've they've done a lot of rework of late. That's pretty nice, but there's never been a focus on this. Hopefully that'll change. But yeah,
remember, a lot of the key donators are people that are in the industry, so they're going to kind of focus on those kind of things. So
say that again. Sorry, what was it?
A lot of people that donate are in industry, so they're going to focus on industry computers versus the home computers that people may not really care about in a way. We do, but
right,
the donors do not.
Yeah, true. I think that in the Europe, there's a slightly stronger drive towards having museums that support the home computer world rather than industry, right? But a lot of those are private collections. So, but then again, we thought that the Paul Allen Museum in Seattle, I guess that was a private collection,
right? Whoops. I have one more question for you, Chris. But
yeah,
how did you find us?
I'm not sure. I've been getting your email. I signed up for your emails a long time ago. I do a lot of random Googling, and I get the notification that you're going to have a meeting, and then I promptly forget. Like the day of, there's no suggestion. I don't know if you have controls over this, but another email like an hour or so before the meeting to say it's coming up in an hour or so certainly would have helped me. So yeah, it literally the reason why I'm on the call is because I went to find something in my garage, and I remembered yesterday, and then I probably forgot today, and I just walked into the garage. And I went, oh, look, here's a Sinclair modem. And I'm like, oh, shit, is it 6 o'clock? So this is what reminded me to get on the call. So I didn't miss you today.
Maybe I should just send out modems.
Right. That's, I'll just leave my modem connected and then you can log in and remind me.
All right. Well, I worry about sending people too much. But maybe that's the thing. So I see a couple other new names here. I see that we have the internet with us. So somebody who's for lack of a better expression, who is the internet? And this is a person wearing a blue shirt.
I don't know. Is anybody listening?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I just figured out how to get my damn microphone working.
Okay.
Nothing going, but anyway, it's all set. And I know you guys are all higher tech than I am as far as this computer stuff with the Timex and Sinclair. And I've posted a few things on your Group IO website, and I've been working on several projects, and if anybody wants to hear about them, I've got stuff working on the spectrums. I've got
well, First of all, what's your name?
Yeah.
Rich J. It's Rich.
Oh, it's the
Jelen.
famous Rich
Oh,
J.
okay.
Yeah, David Anderson. Yeah, I bought a bunch of the Pico stuff from you. Works great. Love it. Carl isn't there. I bought his
Oh, Carl's here.
1510s.
Yep, I'm here.
And,
So yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
yeah, them are nice.
You might even remember my name.
Because Paul Holmgren is here too.
Oh, is he? Yeah, I bought what the heck was it I bought from him? Some boards for the cripe, I forget, because I got so much stuff. I don't know what the hell. I don't have time to play with it all.
You and Chris can get together and play with it together.
Yeah.
Well, my main thing, I've been trying to get my grandsons interested in computing, and Christ, they're so damn smart. The youngest one, he's 11, and he's already trying to program his own things using the PCs I set up for him,
Nice.
with all the memory and crap, so they could play Steam games and Nintendo and all that crap.
Yeah.
Which I'm not a gamer myself. I've always loved to do the programming. I know I sent you guys some stuff on my programs that I had developed. Some of them worked great, a couple of them not so much. They needed tweaking, but I got them all straightened away. I wanted to point out, I did send you, David, micro SD card, probably a year ago, that had probably 3,000 or 4,000 Spectrum games on it.
Okay.
Or more, 7.7 gig.
Oh, good Lord.
.tap files and .disk files. And I just got around to loading them onto my +3 computer using the Gotex. That, man, and that is cool as hell. However, it's you can't have too many games on a darn USB drive, because it takes forever to page through them to get the one you want to load. And there's so many of them, I don't have the time to look at them all and see what the heck what they're all about. I've done a few, and that's about it.
So you're saying there's not enough time in the day to
play 22,000 games? Are you sure?
Oh yeah, it's thousands.
Play page
Literally,
through.
what I did, David, I was talking to you a couple of years ago, and you pointed out the different things I might need to do the TCC programmer for the 2068, which I had 40 years ago. And unfortunately, as an idiot I am, I destroyed it all and threw it out. But it was wonderful. And the only thing, you can only fit 4 to 8 programs on a little card, like is in the 1510 for the 1000 and 1500s. But at any rate, I gave up on that project, because I even tried, what's the guy's name again? Darn it. I'm old, very old. I think I'm older than most of you guys all there. I'm 77 right now, 78. And at any rate, I got all these games for that. I have bought, since I got the +2, +2A, and 3 +3s, put Gotex in them, because the 3-inch drives are shit. I got a secondary 3.5-inch drive system for the 2 of them, and they're crap because you can only load stuff onto them that you program. And once I got a hold of the actual Spectrums, I was really not impressed with how much extra effort it takes to program them. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, step on anybody's toes, but I'll tell you what, the 2068 beats everything I've done so far, hands down. Okay,
I could not have said it better.
I've got most of my what I did the last couple of months was take 3 of my programs from the 2068 and downgrade them to work on the 1000 and 1500. So
Well, of course, the 1500 is like
Talk
way limited compared to the 68. So
I've got a whole bunch of shit to tell you about. So it's up to you guys. Go.
Rich?
well, how about we come back to you? Why not
Yeah.
like
That's
there's some
fine.
more. So hold that thought, Rich. You're
That's
we'll come back to you.
And Rich, just so you know, you've joined today as the internet. So we want to, if we have any questions relating to the internet, we're going to be asking you.
I want to know how he got color on the 1500.
Filters.
I didn't
Filters,
quite
yeah.
get that. What was that, Chris?
I said I wanted to know how you got the color on the 1500 and the 1000.
Because you downgraded programs from the 2068 to.
It was a bad
Oh,
English.
no. I actually did printouts, and I discovered that, the 1500 is a very downgraded version or predecessor of the 2068, so it's not nearly as powerful. So I had to reinterpolate a whole lot of crap. Had a lot of problem with randomization.
Oh, yeah.
How it worked into my programs and so on. There are some things that could probably use machine code to speed them up, but it's not too bad. I took out the plot function that I have on the 2068, which basically takes letters and makes them real big. Okay, I took that out for the 1500s because I couldn't do it, or I couldn't find an easy way to do it because the dots are much bigger. So at any rate, I think what I have on the 1000 and 1500 is the Hangman program I built back 40 years ago, Scramble program, which is pretty nifty, and what the hell was it?
Like Scramble based on the arcade game?
No, just Scramble. What it does, I have a word list. You can change.
Oh, I see.
It's all menu driven. You can change the entire word list or edit just certain words. And I started out at 5, 6, 7, and 8, 9 letter long words. The computer would scramble them up and print them out on the screen. Then you'd have a time clock.
Yeah.
Count down. It gives you so much time to unscramble each word, and it works. It's pretty nifty. Worked fine.
Do you let people spend more time typing it in if it's on a 1000?
Well,
You're terrible, Chris.
I tell you the truth. I like the 1000 keyboard better than the 1500, simply for the fact that I can easily see the little subscript that's dark black over the dark gray keys.
Yeah,
I like it because you can wipe it clean once you spill wine on it.
Right. Now the red on the 1000 keyboard for that stuff is great because it stands right out.
That's good.
So I like that. The only problem I have with my 2068s is they're so old, there are a few keys stick. And so I go to type and, across the screen. And I haven't figured out an easy way of unsticking them. I tried, my favorite is WD-40.
Oh, dear Lord, no.
Oh, goodness.
And it usually works, but not on those keys.
No.
But I did make some units with the mechanical keyboard. And I used paint to produce a new overlay that goes on top the keys. And so it looks just like a 1000, but the keys are sticking through the bottom and all that. And it works great. As a matter of fact, I was talking to David about this. He said he had a ZX81 plus 38 clone, no ULA clone board that he was going to work on. Well, I built 3 of them suckers. Don't do it. They have a lot of problems. They're mahjong, however you pronounce it, ZX81 plus, and though they work, and I finally got everything working on them fine. However, it's really just a kind of a slightly upgraded version of a 1000. A little more memory built in. You got a joystick.
Isn't that all it's meant to be as a modern equivalent, though, sort of?
What's that?
Isn't it just meant to be something like that, like a modern equivalent? So it's, you don't
Well,
have to
the
use old
modern
equipment?
equivalent, I'll tell you what, I built 4 of these. I sent Carl Miles a PC board. I offered one to Dave, but he declined.
I have several.
So I sent one to Carl, and I built 4 of them, and they work out of the box. I mean, you take the board, the schematic is perfect and clear. Every part is perfect. Put it on there just the way it is. Everything goddamn works. And it uses a USB interface and a built-in 128K micro disk. It's a little chip, right? Serial interface chip. And you can store, probably up to 26 or 1,000, 1,500 programs on that chip. And then, of course, the USB drive, you can store just hundreds if you want. And you can list them. It's got the kind of a catalog function that doesn't use catalog, but it has that function for these machines. And it does work with the 1510. Doesn't work with the printer. And I could give a crap, because what I'll do is I have 2 1500s, which I can use to make new programs, and then simply transfer them over, load them, because you can load programs into these ZX81 NUs, okay, NU clones, and then you simply port them over to your USB or micro disk, and you got them there forever.
Yeah.
So basically, I'd use them because it's easier. I can program on these. However, 3 of them are in 1,000 cases. They bolt right in, fit right in. And one of them is in a 1,500 case that I found I had a bad ULA on. So I just scrapped the motherboard and shoved this thing in there. Got the USB drive. In fact, just
Rich,
show you what the 1,500 looks like with that in there. Here's the
Hey, Rich.
Rich,
Can you take 1 second here?
Yeah.
I think David has a question for you.
breathe for a second.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to you, okay? But there's 2 other new folks that I want to harass. Okay. James, are you there?
He probably because I talk too much.
James, are you new to us? Because I don't.
Yep, I am new. My name's James Martin, and I'm in Logan, Ohio. Moved over here in 2009 from Southeast London, and like Chris, I was raised on originally I had my first computer was a 48K ZX Spectrum, which I then upgraded to a +2, then I got a +2A, and then a +3, and then moved on to the Amiga. And I've been in and out of IT and sales, marketing, and some systems for the last 25, 30 years. And as I say, moved over to the Hocking Hills in Ohio, which is a very popular tourist destination. And I'm also on city council. And one of my fellow councilmen about 2 months ago gave me.
Oh, my Lord. Wow.
Oh,
nice.
And he had it. He was a surveyor, and I think he got it. He had it for like 6 months. Used his surveying program, and then he got something else. It's still got the polythene bag and everything in it. And I wanted to have a chat with you folks because I'm too frightened to plug it in.
Well, have you got a UK power supply?
Well, let me say one
you
thing.
said you're in Iowa, James? Or
No, he's in Logan, Ohio, which is about 40 minutes
Ohio,
from me
then,
in Columbus.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not too
Yeah,
far.
if he's got the right power supply.
Well, that's a 2068 American, so I'm sure it has a U.S. power supply.
Right. You'll have that
Yeah.
brick. I don't use them. I threw them all away. but let me say one thing about the about plugging it in. I've never seen the ULA, the SCLD in the 2068 go bad, and I fixed a few of them. I have 6 of them actually. I have one just a bare board because I don't have a case, and I have a keyboard that I made mechanical keyboard attaches to it with the overlay I did on Paint, and I use that for running programs and testing and so on. Never saw an SCLD go bad in them. Unlike the 1000 and the ZX81, they all fry pretty quickly. Half of them that I bought, the ULA was shot. But there's nothing else you can be afraid of in there. Mostly if the power supply goes bad, let's say you accident, like the idiot I am, shorting out the series transistor, the power transistor, and booting a pile of voltage into everything. I just blew out the memory chips.
Well, but James is not in danger of that because he's not going to open it today.
Yeah,
he just wants to plug it in.
He
right,
just
James?
don't plug it in. I have a couple that are original. Haven't touched them inside. I open them up. I didn't replace any capacitors. I've been working on stuff since I was 20, head of a shop for all the Americas. I ran for radar steering and gyroscope for Sperry Marine. And I've been known all the stuff about ICs. I started studying ICs and digital logic in the 70s when the crappy Sprague chips first came out that would fail after a week's use. Little blue ICs.
Can I ask one thing though? So Sinclair's, I'm assuming the 2068 is the same, is center negative, right?
Yes.
Yes, it's
okay.
It's
so the warning here is if your Sinclair or Timex power supply doesn't work, think twice before you plug anything else in, because typically those are the other way around.
That's right.
That will blow your ULA.
Yes, that will blow you right up. But all you got to do, get yourself a cheapy multimeter from Rural King or someplace like that.
Harbor Freight.
$5, $10. Check that internal, the center pin, make sure it's negative.
How come nobody says Radio Shack anymore? Oh, never
No,
mind.
Radio Shack.
They're on the way back.
I used to go there all the time, but it don't exist around me.
That's a low blow there, Carl.
Sorry.
I'm counting that against you.
I was stuck. I was stuck back in 2003. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I just noticed that's who you are.
So dude, James, I'm up in Chicago because the CocoNet, the Coco Fest was just here.
Yeah.
So there were a whole bunch of Radio Shack color computer fans here. They would all be very upset with you.
Well, that's fine. Like I said, I'm not. My problem is I learned on these keyword computers, and to me, anything else I have to do all kinds of typing and all that crap. No, I gave up on it. So that's why I don't like the Spectrum, because if it had the keywords like the Sinclairs,
the Spectrum does though. Rich, the 2068 is a improved.
Not the later model Spectrums.
Maybe the later ones,
and the 128.
Yeah, with 128 basic, they went to the regular.
Yeah,
they no more keywords.
Right.
Well, I never tried it much. Like I said, I wasn't into programming them, and I got hooked on all the games and so on. And thousands of games. Like I said, when I sent the disc to you, I think I sent some to you, Carl, too, that are on the little micro SD cards. And there's literally thousands of .tap and .disk files, as well as screenshots and crap, like I don't know what it all.
I think we never did really answer his question. I think we should recommend that he just get a new power supply and just not even bother with the old one. Yeah. And Carl recommends one. I don't remember which one. I mean, he gave me one.
There's, you can look in the forum or the groups IO, but there's nothing really. The caps that are in the original Timex power supply, right? Those could probably dry out at some point, but. The easiest thing to do is, like I said, if you have a meter, you probably have a meter, right? A DMM or something. Just just measure the output. If it's anywhere between 14 and 25 volts, you should be fine.
Yeah, also measure the AC. It should be 0.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That'll tell you if you have too much ripple.
Right.
2068 power supplies on switch mode though, right?
I tell people to put a little capacitor.
No, they're not switching.
On the end of their probe lead, and use the capacitor to check across the DC output on the lowest AC setting. And if there's AC there, it'll show up on the meter. Otherwise, it won't.
To Chris's point, there is a switching regulator in the 2068.
Yeah,
that creates the 5 volts.
Well, you mentioned capacitors. I mean, I would have thought the only capacitor in the 2068 power supply would have been some nominal smoothing capacitor. Unlike switch modes where they can fold and you can end up with a big mess, right? I would have thought that anything that was like a toroidal power supply was probably pretty safe.
Yes.
There's two big filter caps. If you break open, I've got like 3 of them that are broke open. The original DVE power supplies that came with the 2068. There's 2 big filter caps in there, and they're, I don't know, 1,000 microfarads, 2,200. But those could get high ESR right over these years. I don't typically not. I've seen some with the diodes go bad, but anyway, the big thing is it's probably okay. James, since I don't know how much you used it, but like I said, just check the voltage, and then you can see the polarity, right? You'll figure the polarity out as well, and then if you get a new one, you can just make sure that the polarity matches, right? The center pin is negative.
Hey, Carl.
Yeah.
Hey, Carl, are the capacitors in the power supply of the 2068, are they X capacitors, or are they actual electrolytic capacitors that are in line?
Yeah, these things are from 82, 83. So there's no safety caps in there at all.
Okay.
There's just a full wave bridge rectifier, individual diodes that are in there. I mean, I can go grab one of them, and then there's 2 big filter caps. And and that's really all that's in those.
25 volt for the 5 volt supply, and the other one's a 470 25 volt for the 12 volt supply. The only one I worry about, the only part of the power supply I worry about in the 2068 is the little 78L12, because it is the thing, sound chip and all that. I forget which one it is. Draws only like 35 milliamp, but that sucker is only good for a maximum of 100 milliamp, and that's, I think, if you heat sink it. If you touch that little sucker when it's running, it's hot, and I don't like to run anything hot. Now, the 5 volt supply with the little switching, whatever it is, S40 14 pin regulator, that sucker is rock solid. Mm-hmm. I've had to rebuild a couple of them, and I use a 2N4919 transistor and add a little heat sink there. Doesn't even get warm, for a switching regulator. But the 78L12 is a little tiny thing, little maybe the size of a pea, and it gets warm. So it's a couple of those I just went ahead while I was in there and replaced them with a 78L12, not L, but a 7812 1 amp regulator, and problem solved. You can't with that. Now, the other thing I do to cut the heat down in all these computers, I do not run any 1000s or 1500s more than 9 volt regulated modern power supply, and I do not run the 2068 at higher than a 15 volt modern regulated switching power supply plug-in adapter, and the suckers are between $5 and $10 a piece, and I buy them in bulk because I use so many of them, and everything runs a lot cooler. It's easier on all the components because, for instance, that little 78L12, when that brick is plugged in, you measure the voltage going to that input at 78L12, it's over 18 volts. So 12 volts at 6 volts at 35 milliamp, it's some wattage there. There's a lot of wattage there.
Rich,
calculator, figure it out, it gets pretty hot.
Yeah, I think I'd be more happy using a new power supply because
Oh yeah.
I mean this goes back to when I was a kid because I'm sure most of you know that Sinclair had a huge recall on their power supplies back in the day, and I've always been paranoid about it ever since. And
Well,
I really don't want to plug in something that's 40 years old, even just to test it, to be quite honest. So I mean,
they work.
Rich,
They
Rich,
work.
Rich, hang on,
Like
Rich.
I said, I have a pile of them. If anybody wants,
James.
Yeah, I'll take one.
James, ping me an email because I have a drawer full of them that I just put a new connector onto.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Yes, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
And the final question that I wanted to ask you guys is what is the best way to run one of these on? Is it worth me just buying a CRT TV to run it, or can it run on just a regular LCD?
Yeah, I couldn't imagine where would you find a CRT? No, I use an LCD screen. I've got this thing that I got from Amazon, pointing at my shoulder to it. Got this thing from Amazon that has composite in, VGA, HDMI. I don't remember what else, but the composite in will work with the with the 2016. It's going to be a noisy video signal.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
No
right
matter
now.
what you use, though, that's
Yeah.
You
So you can go
composite
to Goodwill or any of the thrift stores and buy a small TV as long as it's got composite inputs on it, check it out. But that will work just fine.
Well, the other thing you can do. Oh, sorry.
Still,
The other thing I was just going to mention.
Modern TVs still have composite, right? They haven't.
Yeah, they do.
Yep.
Yeah.
But sometimes they won't pick it up. But the other thing I was going to say is you can get the the video board that Jeff made. So you get a VGA output. So then you can try and find something with a VGA input. And that video is really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just if you go to use, make sure you get the correct. If it make sure it's either 110 power or you get the power brick with it.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah.
TV.
Okay. Well, wonderful. Well, I appreciate all the advice, guys. And David, I'll send you a quick message. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really appreciate it.
I'm glad you found us, James. Like Chris, do you need a reminder an hour before?
No, I don't.
I do.
I don't know if it's an English thing or.
It's people with
James, I sent you a note in the chat also with my email. You should contact me since you're less than 40 minutes away from me.
Sounds great. I was actually there yesterday in Columbus.
Okay. I am actually in Chicago until Thursday or until Friday, but I will be back on Friday.
Oh, well, that's very ironic because I will also be going to Chicago next week. I'm going to be on WGN.
We got one other person who I don't recognize and is listed as Stro.
Yeah, that's me. John Stroebel is my name.
Okay.
I am from Minneapolis.
Oh.
The Twin Cities.
Twin Cities, yep. I got a ZX81 in 1981. And I would for $99 as a kid. And I was able to get one for that price without having it come as a kit. It was already pre-assembled. So I was able to plug it and go, and I had the ZX printer with it, and it's, of course, a 16K RAM wobble pack. And I also had a Parrot speech emulator. So I was able to write a bunch of stuff with speech. And these days, I mean, I still have that system. I still run it. I modified it to be able to connect with composite on a ZX81. Works great. But I've spent more time lately playing with emulation. So I worked with Paul Farrow on the latest updates to the 81 emulator, and brought in a lot of the sound speech updates that are in there and sound improvements that are part of that, performance improvements.
Oh, that's cool.
And I love the emulator because I can play with things like that I don't have, like the 2068 and a lot of these other machines, and run software that either you guys created or that you can get from just about anywhere, right? And it's pretty cool to be able to run that stuff and play it. I mean, that got me interested in computing, and I've been in designing medical implantable devices since 1987. As a result of that, still writing code today for those devices, and not quite yet retired yet, but I also still have a pesky radio restoration habit, so I restore vacuum tube radios too. So a little bit different voltages used for those than what we typically see in the Sinclairs, hopefully. So
it's only about 300-400 volts, no big deal.
Yeah, exactly.
300 volts between friends.
Pretty much. Yeah, those things. Yeah, you don't want to mess with those too much. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's fun. I like I say, I've been spending a lot of more time with emulators today, just because they're easy and I can take them anywhere. So
that is awesome. How did you find us?
Oh, actually, through Paul Farrow. We were doing some research for looking for different things, and he sent me a link to some of the stuff on your site.
Okay.
I don't know how I never found it before, because I spend most of my time on Sinclair's World. So this was kind of a nice little find for me that I appreciate. I still got a lot of looking to do on the site to see what else is out there, but I found some nice little gems out there that software tools that I didn't have before. So,
well, and Greg Harder is really active on.
Yep.
And he's one of the. Greg says he has he doesn't have a connection. He like goes to the library to do his uploading and stuff. So, which is why that's the reason he's told me that he can't join our meetings. Because I've like reached out to him a couple times.
They didn't bring him the internet yet, or what?
Let me tell you, because for folks who haven't seen what Greg can do, it's amazing shit. And he's been doing it for 40 years now, 40 plus years now. Right?
You should talk to Richard, since he's the internet.
What's that?
Isn't it Richard who's the internet?
The internet, yes. Yeah. Well, cool. I'm glad.
Just really quick here before we get too much further. Chris was mentioning, there's a lot of mention of the +3, in this particular call, which is kind of ironic for me, because I just picked one up from some guy in Egypt. There was an eBay thing, and he had another one that was a cheaper one, but didn't come with the box. I mean, I think it was in the styrofoam, but it didn't have the outer box. And I was like going to pick that one up, but I guess somebody beat me to it. And I was like, well, I don't really want to spend that much on this one, but I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever. Well, I'm sure there'll be other opportunities to get a +3, but I just said hell with it and picked it up from him. So it is in the box. It has the outer cover and everything, and then I got a GoTech for it, which was kind of something, Rich J there mentioned. Yeah, I got a GoTech for it, and I just currently looked up, or just the other day, a external enclosure, right, for because I don't want to really throw away the 3-inch drive, and I need to get some discs for it, the CF2 discs. So I'm thinking about putting it into an external enclosure that somebody created. It's basically a copy of the CPC 1648, I think. Of course, that's a whole computer, but what they did is they just modeled the, where the drive is. Because Amstrad did make an external drive. I think it was the FD11, but that thing's huge. It's got a big old switch mode power supply in the back of it, and it's probably like 14 inches deep. It's like ridiculous for a 3-inch drive. So this thing is just for the drive and maybe a little space for a little power thing in there. So I probably need to get that 3D printed, and that way I can have I can still have a use for the external. Or still for the original 3-inch drive, because I'm going to put the GoTech inside the +3, and so I'm kind of looking forward to playing around with that a little bit. I do have a +2. I think it's the gray one, so it's the early one, right? It's not the black +2, but I don't think I'll need to get that now that I've got the +3, because they're basically the same machine. Just the other one has the tape drive in it.
But you don't need a set. You don't need the gray and the black one.
Well, I probably I'm kind of like you, Chris, with that. With when I'll see something, but sometimes it depends on which side of the bed I wake up on. If I'm inclined to buy something like that day, or I'm the more sensible me woke up. Oh boy, see.
Now, Carl, you might want to know that there was a guy on there on eBay that sold cables and drives to put a regular 3.5-inch drive as a second drive on the machine. I think that might be the way you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that, but the big thing is just because those are kind of unique discs, right? Those 3-inch discs.
Yeah,
yeah.
I've got 2 extras.
Hey, I want to get back to the medical device thing real quick because there's a connection. Hey, Jeff.
Yes.
You know a thing or two about medical devices.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught that was it James? John, sorry, John. John is the your arch nemesis, the software side.
Yeah, well, like I said, I work on realware hardware when I was working. So,
so Jeff, Jeff, you can explain what you did, but you designed.
Well, I'll just say real quick. I'm a system engineer, so I actually I get my hands into everything. I've done hardware design, firmware design, software design. So,
yeah, kind of the same thing with me. I worked at St. Jude Medical for a lot of years, so doing electrophysiology recording systems.
Okay.
And you were doing implantables, right?
I'm doing implantables. I work at Medtronic.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Brand X. So, are you? What is it? Neurostim or cardiac? What can you?
I've done both. I'm primarily cardiac rhythm management, though. That's where I've got most of my
Oh, okay. AICD or pacemaker, both?
Yes.
Okay.
I designed our pacing engine years ago that is used across all the products.
Oh, that's impressive.
And John, is that ZX81 based or
is it what?
It's pacing engine. Is it ZX81 inside?
We're still running on 68HC11, so it's an 8-bit micro. No,
pretty much.
Some of the newer stuff is 32-bit. But.
Well, back in the day when I worked for Cardiac Pacemaker, they were putting a Z80 core in theirs. So,
yeah, cardiac pacemaker. That's so. Are you from Minneapolis too?
Yes, Coon Rapids.
Oh, right. I might know you.
So listen, guys. The challenge is between now and our next meeting on Sunday, for the folks who are within proximity to each other. Y'all have to get together and then report back on Sunday. So Chris and Tim, Jeff and John, let's see, who was it? James and Mowgli. Y'all all have to get together.
I can go raid Chris's place.
Yeah.
I kind of knew this day would come, but the Albuquerque, triathlon or whatever you want to call this is, it seems like its days are surely numbered.
Why is that?
Well, because we're getting, more people that are in bigger metropolises, that are. So I think at some point they're going to exceed, what we have here. But hey. It was good while it lasted.
being the leader.
I think we might have the highest density, though.
You do. You still have the highest density, and for the new guys, Adam, Carl, and Ryan are all in Albuquerque, and they get together regularly. And then there's like another guy, John, that is also, but he's usually too busy flying his plane or doing non-computer things. Playing with bigger computers than Sinclair's.
Like you guys would always say, why Albuquerque?
Why Albuquerque? What about Albuquerque?
Hey man, birthplace of Microsoft.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's something in the water. You guys
It's
throw it in
Carl.
water?
I like it here because of Carl. That's why I stay.
Well, and they're
I
the
think, I
ones.
think,
They're
Go
the
ahead,
ones
Jeff.
that did not take the left turn.
Right.
Oh, right.
well, I think it all has to go back to MIPS, man. That kind of, I think, cemented Albuquerque as the beginning of the bomb there. That kind of got everything going.
Does
Mhm.
anyone
course,
here
I've-
actually have a MITS in their collection? A MITS Altair? Anyone?
No, there's one for sale here in Chicago for around $4,000 if you've got a little extra money.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd looked at picking one up at some point just because it's nostalgia, but I'm probably gonna have to end up doing just a one of these replicas.
I have one of the Arduino based replicas. It's cute,
Mhm.
but it's it's just a bunch of
You
switches.
guys realize, right, that the company I work for, Sperry, Rand, owned the UNIVAC line of computers.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
right. Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
I
were
have-
bought out back in the 80s by Burroughs.
Yep.
And big buyout crap made them Burroughs second in line behind IBM. And then they went under because the idiots, basically the salespeople bought it, hadn't figured out, oh, we better figure out if we can marry our two technologies. They couldn't.
So
That was became known as by the term dinosaurs meeting.
Yeah.
so listen, there's a Burroughs to Timex connection. And that is when Luke Ailey joined Timex, he came from Burroughs. He brought over folks from Burroughs. Scott McCourt, who was a manager, Lon Hildreth, who was a programmer, and oh shoot, I'm losing the name on the Will Collum, also a programmer, all came from Burroughs to Timex. And Will is the person, I'll put it this way. Will is the person responsible for revising the ROM in the 1500 to support the cartridge system. Will may also be the person responsible for the bug in the 1500 ROM, but we won't go there. Lon was working on porting CPM to the 2068 and a bunch of other things having to do with the ROM code. There was another guy, Dave, who has since passed on. He also came from Burroughs. There's a bunch of small systems guys. This little office system that Burroughs was working on. They all jumped ship with Scott and
Were these US based or UK based?
US. Yeah. I think the Burroughs office was somewhere in Connecticut. So it was not a big move for any of these guys, just down the road basically. It's crazy.
Yeah, I in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, I worked through Sperry. I was the head of the entire division to repair all the products for the Americas, North and South America, that they sold. And we worked on a collision avoidance system for shipping that had a 4K memory card in it. That was about half the size of your monitor. That was loaded with literally thousands and thousands of tiny toroidal donuts
cores
that wires ran through. Yeah. It was beautiful to look at, but only 4K and about a foot by a foot.
Yeah, it's about typical for core memory.
I wish I had them, but I threw them out. I should have saved them for you guys. You could stick them on the wall somewhere.
Hey Jeff, have we riffed long enough for you?
No, keep discussing amongst yourselves. You know how much I like to talk.
I want you to show a circuit board.
Oh, well, all right.
I was just going to show remind Chris about the original Paul Allen Museum that's no
Oh,
longer here.
nice.
Albuquerque. Oh,
Well, the Seattle Paul Allen Museum is also no longer there.
yeah,
Right.
indeed.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff.
Oh, give me a second here. I've got to get my act together.
Yeah, your screen's all black. How's that helping us?
While he's doing that, does anybody collect Sinclair calculators or any other Sinclair stuff like audio or TVs?
I've got the flat screen TV and the calculator. I did have the FM radio, but I actually gave it away to somebody.
I sold the watch last year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There was a gentleman
I did.
in the UK I bought something for, and in return I told him, just send me some Sinclair stuff, don't send me money. So I got the programmable calculator and the flat screen.
And I know for me, I picked up the Radio Shack version, and here I go saying Radio Shack again, but of the Sinclair, the white. I think it was I can't remember the model of the Sinclair. It was just a copy of it, but of course, Radio Shack sold it as theirs.
The MC10.
No, it's a calculator.
Calculator.
It's,
Oh,
I
the
think it's an
calculator.
EC. Yeah, I think it's an EC 4007, or maybe it's a 4001. But it's one of Sinclair's scientific calculators.
Is it the one that looks like a remote control for your TV?
Yeah, it's white.
Okay.
It's all white, and it's kind of put together pretty cheesily. But I'm thinking, well, it's a Sinclair, so it's par for the course for that, because it's kind of got a plastic white case.
Yeah.
Very similar to me, now that I have one, of what the ZX80
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
was made out of, right?
They're all thermoformed rather than
Right.
Yeah. There's actually quite a lot of models, including some weird shit like betting calculators and stuff. It's like
That's crazy.
Yeah, some of those
another day
calculators
I
are
can
pretty
show you
cool.
that collection.
Yeah. Cool.
So Chris,
Yeah.
you got a C5 yet?
I no. They were so badly panned in the UK. Like it was just a joke from day one. So,
Paul, did you ever say that you had one at one time?
No, not me.
The guy
I met
from
somebody who actually had one in the US, and then one of the TV stations bought it from them.
Oh, weird.
And then years later, I saw it actually used in a TV show as a prop.
wow.
Yeah, the C5 reminds me of the Segway. I mean, all the hype and all hat and no cattle, I guess.
All right, Jeff, since you spoke, I spotlighted you.
Oh, wonderful.
Talk about, yes, exactly.
You're right
Talk
back.
about what we're looking at.
Okay, this is the first prototype of the 2060 board that we've been talking about, that will connect up to your 2068. So it has several peripherals here. It's designed to provide the basic functionality that we've got in the Pico storage and in the Pico video, and also provide a slot for user-defined boards. So I'm in the process of troubleshooting it right now, and so far I haven't found too many errors on the circuit board. So
well, it's a good thing it's not an implantable then, huh?
Well, I don't know.
All right.
We tend to think if it kill fewer than 10% of your patients, then you're doing pretty good.
That's a success. Cool.
So you plug this into a 2068?
Yeah.
So yeah, Chris, I don't know if you're aware of this.
No, I'm not.
Okay. Timex, had grand plans, and one of the grand plans was this expansion unit that the 2068 would plug into, and it was called the bus expansion unit. Its model number was 2060. There's a picture that they produced of basically the whole system, the 2068, the bus expansion unit. It's got 2 micro drives on top of it, and a modem, and a tape player, and an 80 column printer off to the left. The 2060 has been the thing that was just sort of rife with rumors of, yes, they produced it, yes, they had prototypes in hand, and I don't know. It's kind of hard to support that they had prototypes in hand. They had a thing that they took a picture of, but that can be made out of balsa wood, for instance. And we do have, thanks to Lon, who saved a whole bunch of documents when Timex shut down. He just took everything within arm's reach and put it in a box and left it there for 40 years. then he came and talked to us, and we're like, "What's in the box, Lon?" One of the documents in the box was this specification document for the 2060, which says what its features were going to be, and it had a rough drawing of the backside of the 2060.
So what's I'm curious, because like there's a gentleman in Portugal who's got the Sinclair museum, who's got a lot of press, and he seems to have done a lot of work on, certainly on like a certain path of history. Like, do you guys talk to him at all?
Oh yeah. John comes and talks to us all the time. And John, let's see if Johnny Red
was on.
Yep, Johnny Red's here.
Yeah,
he's
Johnny's
there, but
involved in that museum as well. Johnny started a website 20 plus years ago about the Portuguese. There was Timex at a plant in Portugal, and they worked back and forth with Timex in Connecticut. So, for instance, when Timex in Connecticut decided that they were going to make this 1500, this zhuzhed up 1000, their first concept was, well, we'll just blow out the circuit board a little bit towards the front of the computer in order to put in 16K of RAM, and we'll use the same keyboard and slap a new label on it. And the folks at Timex Portugal said, you know what, we could put it in a case kind of like the Spectrum, shaped similarly to the Spectrum case, use that keyboard, make a metal faceplate that has the markings for it. And initially there was some pushback from Connecticut about that, but that is what they ended up making. So that's part of what Joao talks about. It has that museum for, but the Portuguese.
I'm gonna put you an image there, Dave.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the Portuguese plant. Factory, enterprise. Once Timex.
Is that a picture of mine there, Ryan?
Yours, Carl.
Because I don't think
Carl
we have.
This is what Timex wanted to do initially, and Joao has something that looks like this in the museum, and Carl made one. And Chris, that sticker that says Timex Sinclair 1500, is that Carl? Is that one that I sent you?
Yeah, that's that color scheme, right? Yeah, one of them that you sent me.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I got some stuff from somebody who was related to somebody at Timex, and was just what I got was like a little strip of stickers. And that's what one of them is right there, is that Carl used. Yeah, so the Timex Portugal, but in the 84, 85, not a lot of folks knew about it here in the States. And then, some folks found out about it and went over and started importing disk drives from Portugal. Not the big, well, they did import the big unit, but Zebra in particular imported the little 3-piece unit. There's a box that holds a power supply, a box that holds the controller, and a box that holds a 3-inch disk drive. They're all shaped the same, size and stuff.
So growing up in the UK, it wasn't until I came here in later years that I realized there's a completely parallel universe. I'm pretty sure in the UK, of course we didn't have the internet, right? We just had those crappy magazines that were written for 12-year-olds. And I don't recall ever later, like with the Ataris and Amigas, you get a lot of American magazines instead, and you'd see what all these things you would never actually physically touch because the it was probably made out of balsa wood. But like in the UK for like Sinclair stuff, like it felt like complete isolation. It's kind of interesting, like coming later in life realizing there's all these things that got made like kind of under license or
Funny, Chris, it's funny that you talk about it from that point of view because I was an Amiga user in the 80s, well, the 90s and the 2000s. And here in the US, like I got all the Amiga magazines from the UK. And so they were talking about all the software that I was interested in. And the only way I could get it was by pirating it.
well, there was a duality with Amigas. All the low end Amigas and games were in Europe.
Right.
The high end stuff was in the US.
Mm.
So yeah, if you were starving for high end Amiga hardware, you would look towards the US. If you were looking for cool games to play, it would be the other way.
Like a 1500 or 500.
I'm paraphrasing, but it's how it felt.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well,
Hey,
for
Greg.
us, the UK for the Timex stuff was the center of the world, and we were kind of at the very end of the world. And so I don't imagine anything from here would have actually gone over there. I'm not sure any software written here ever made it to the UK other than some QL stuff that I'm aware of years later. So
Yeah, I think you're right, Tim. I mean, the most that they got from us was this column that Mark Fender wrote for I think it was ZX Computing.
I know he did QL, one of the QL magazines, but did he? I can't remember if he did one of the ZX magazines or not.
Yeah, he
It
did.
was called Across the Pond.
Yep, same column. Yeah. So, Chris, you may have been exposed to it, but why would you have read it? There were no pictures.
Yeah, frankly, I didn't do a very good job convincing my parents on grooming them on what machine to buy, and so the only place other than you get the Sinclair magazine. I can't remember what it was called, maybe in Sinclair, right? And they'd have that color spread with a nice sine wave plot on it. And there would be all this kind of promises of all this extra hardware, and you'd show it to your parents. I did that cost calculation of how much it would cost to buy a ZX81 and then buy all the expansions to make it like a Spectrum and convince them they needed to buy a Spectrum. But I didn't convince them they should spend £179 for the 48K unit versus 16 for the £129 for the 16K unit. And it turns out it's kind of interesting from a home computer market perspective because in the Sinclair case, almost nothing got, like after the first year or so of being available in shops like W.H. Smiths and Boots, the 16K Spectrum became an albatross, right? You really got to upgrade it because most of the games are 48K. Whereas if you looked towards like the Atari 8-bit world, there was plenty of stuff that was 16K or cartridge based because there was a sizable amount of 16K computers. So I actually only had a Spectrum for maybe a year and a half and moved towards Atari 8-bit simply because I either I got to replace the Spectrum or replace it with something completely different. So I'm a heathen, right? I moved pretty quickly from the Spectrum to something else, feeling pretty disappointed that I kind of been underserved by Sir Clive, right?
That's the standard experience.
Yeah.
Well, think about how we were like here, where you could buy the ZX81. I bought it in 81, and no one sold software to it at all.
Right.
You look at some of the first magazines, all the ads were from the UK, and you're like 17. I'm like, I don't have a credit card. I'm not going to be able to buy from the UK.
Yeah, and of course, credit cards were weird things. Like growing up, my dad had a credit card. It was like that. It's almost like it should have been a little glass case. Break like it was a cash world, right?
You had to type in stuff. You had to get the magazines or the periodicals and type in programs.
Yeah, a lot of that.
We had a lot of that. Yeah.
I don't know if it was just so much a cash world as a check world back
Checks.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Money
certainly in the
order.
UK, it was cash. Like people didn't even use checks.
Okay.
You know, you guys were more advanced on how to spend your money and get into debt. We were catching you up. We got there.
When I bought my ZX81, I didn't have a checking account, so I basically gave my stepfather the full cash, 250. Then he wrote a check to Sinclair, and I got my Sinclair. So
Right. Actually, my dad literally, I was begging them. So I think he was probably. So as a kid, like a friend who's like a few years older than me, his uncle gave him a ZX80, and we played with that, and then he swapped that out for a ZX81. I giggled at the wobble pack, but that's what we called them too. Literally put blue tack on the back. The Sinclair RAM expansions were shit. The Memorex ones were much better. They didn't wobble as much, and they didn't. So like, there's nothing as bad waiting for Monster Maze to load, and then you touch the keyboard and it goes eh. But the Memorex memory expansion is much better. But like, it was probably summertime, and everybody was anticipating Sinclairs. You could get one or two if you ordered them and send a check, but most people were a bit wary about sending a check even. And then there was this promise of W.H. Smith's, which was you guys don't know what W.H. Smith's is. It's you know, they call it a news agents, but it's a relatively small large place where you could buy magazines, and they would be greetings cards and other shit, but it was even music. And then they became like the primary seller of Sinclair. Eventually, also, I think they sold some Acorn stuff, and I can't remember where else. But I would literally go up to the shops every Saturday, which is you did, and I would go to the basement of W.H. Smith's, and I'd ask them if they had a shipment yet of Sinclair Spectrums. And that first year, they had massive problems manufacturing.
Yeah, that's what we heard. Yeah.
And so I didn't even realize until recently the whole thing with Sinclair, like Sinclair was binning RAM chips, right? And finding if a high part of the RAM was faulty or low part, and they were binning in high and low faults. And so the 16K machines were really, I think, 32K, right? Or is it the 48K machines were really 64?
48, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because the upper 32K, they've actually put jumpers on the board. Right.
So, to figure out which
shit
up or shit lower, right?
Exactly, right.
And this is like this is Clive Sinclair all over. He found a niche. But anyway, like I would go into W.H. Smith. My dad refused to. Wow, this is bringing. This is activating neurons.
Yeah. And Chris, why do you think he refused to go in there with you?
Oh, he didn't. He didn't refuse to go into W.H. Smith's. He refused to give me a check and send it via mail to some place in, you know, evil London, Cambridge, wherever the mailing address was. He wasn't sure he would get his money back. Clive Sinclair had this very mixed reputation. Like everybody knew one end of the spectrum, his stuff was shit. And I say that with love, right? But that, like, it was, he was very clever on how he managed to kind of, like, especially the RAM just reminds me of how he scraped the corners of the tech industry, right? But anyway,
I think the U.S. got lucky in the fact by the time the ZX81 hit the U.S., all the stuff had been worked out.
Right.
By the time the QL got to the U.S., the U.S. built QLs made in Korea were probably the most stable QLs available. So we just had to wait a year, and we got lucky.
Yeah, I mean, early it was Ferranti gate arrays, right, were the backbone of the ULAs, and then later they were using Samsung fabs for the ULAs weren't really ultra logic gate arrays anymore. They were custom ASICs.
Yeah.
So you've definitely got the reliability up. They're all surface mount. You know, probably much more voltage tolerant, all that stuff.
So here you go. Here's another one for you, Chris.
Sinclair user.
Porn. I have one somewhere that has a picture of a vicar. I need to find that one.
Oh, that's
It's
gonna
like
be good.
an explanation about like why does a vicar bought a Spectrum, which I thought was like really.
Aren't there
I
a few
can tell
issues of
you-
that magazine that have a US edition?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made
That
a
was
they
Thomas
made a
Sinclair user.
yeah, they made a
So the
US
two
version.
primaries here were Sync and Thomas Sinclair user. And Chris, since they're all digitized, I can give you my copies.
Yeah, no, we had a bookstore here, called Page One, and I used to go there as a kid because they would get all the European like Your Computer, right? Because Your Computer had a bunch of Sinclair stuff in it. Of course, they would get the Sinclair user. They would get some of the other Sinclair specific magazines, and I would buy those. And I know I used to make I did buy some stuff from Britain, but I think I did money orders, and I think the U.S. Post Office could convert it to pounds for you, and it
You
would make
probably
it
had to
out
go to
in
the
pounds.
back then. Didn't you have to go to the post office? You'd get an international money order.
Yes,
Yes,
you
that's
had to
what you
go to the
probably
post
were doing.
office. Yeah,
Yeah.
but they would convert it to pounds for you, and then I would mail that off to Britain and get some stuff. I think it was software probably. I don't know what I bought, but I just remember having to do money orders and have them international money orders, like David's saying, because U.S. money orders it's only dollars, right? But so they would do the conversion rate, and I remember thinking, "Fuck those British people, man! Why is their money worth so more than the dollar?" Because it's like $1 is like 78, 75 cents.
You got them back because every time you would look in American magazine for like an Atari, you'd look at American magazines with Ataris or Commodores or whatever in it, and then you would buy that hardware in the UK. It would be the same pound, right? Like, whoever was like doing the imports, they completely scammed the British, right? You'd see like a $200 Atari computer, and you would pay £200, and somebody was making 50% extra. So.
I was reading about Jack Tramiel and Commodore, and he did that because he could.
Oh my God.
That doesn't sound like him at all.
I know Leonard, and I used to have a pretty sour. I have a lot of people who will never talk about that family, and I know Leonard. I think he's a pretty honorable guy, but I think I would put a pinch of salt with some of the stories. Put it that way.
Chris, it costs a lot of money to convert those things to PAL, so that's probably what you were paying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it requires a different crystal for a start, right? Oh, talking of conversions. So this is I think this is Brazilian Spectrum.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's got a really interesting hack in it because it's not.
This is the Argentina version of the Spectrum.
By the way, Chris,
say that again.
Gustavo's from Argentina.
This is for Argentina. This machine.
Yes, Argentina. And what's the standard in Argentina?
This machine was made by Cerveni.
No, it's actually made by it's made by Timex in the UK, I think, and there's a hack on it.
Made by
I can probably open it. It's got like a crystal hack on it.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those, Chris, but
it
was PAL M.
Is 3.58 and normal is PAL N.
But it's literally, I think, a UK unit, and then they replaced the crystal and put some other hackery in it.
Yeah, but this machine is 50 hertz.
Right.
50 hertz and 3.58.
Hey, Chris, I'm going to put a pin in you because I want to get Greg to talk about his program. Hey, Greg, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm going to pin you as soon as I can find you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
All right. So a million years ago, you told us about something you were working on.
Yeah. So I released that. I did Wordle for the basic for the ZX81 just on a lark one night, and we put it out. But one of the biggest problems I had is it was too freaking slow, and I couldn't put very much in the vocabulary in the dictionary. So I've been playing with the Z88 DK compiler, and I'm close to releasing the next version, the Wordle Plus. My goal was to try and get more than 16K of text to fit in 16K. So I've kind of found a way to kind of compress it in there, but I couldn't just use decompression because I don't have enough memory to decompress stuff and it needs to be fast. So I'm bit packing everything. I found that I only need 5 bits per letter. That gives me 32 values. And so for every 5 bytes, I can squeeze 8 characters in there. So I
try using a try data structure on top of it.
What was that?
Google try data structures. If you look at search engines, that's how they compress dictionaries.
Yeah.
So you could do that too and increase your dictionary more.
Yeah, but I need to be able to. It has to be alphabetical order because I'm doing binary searches in it. I need to be able to just
and try as lexicographically ordered will help you there.
So, but anyway, I've got that kind of work in progress. I already have a dictionary that's more than 16K of text, and because I have 32 bytes, for 32 characters to work with, I've actually added recently just an option to whether or not you want to include plural words or things that end with an ed. So instead, I just terminate the D. There's 2 values for D, whether it's an ed word or just a regular D word, and the same with S at the end if it's plural or not. So you'll always be able to put it in your guesses, but whether or not it can choose that for a word, now I can filter that out. So it's just been one of the little things. And of course, now the Z88DK also does multi-platform.
Yeah.
So I figured if I'm going to do it, let's just do it right. And so I'm actually compiling a ZX81 version /TS. I'll probably try to see if I can get a ZX80 out, but I'll also do a Spectrum and a 2068 version. And because the emulator can do the Chroma ZX81, I'm going to try and do a color one with that too. So,
okay,
just trying to see if I can squeeze it all out. Just kind of the latest little project on the side.
Greg, what word list are you using? Out of curiosity.
I actually found a dictionary that's a Unix dictionary, and I just did a grep search and stripped out basically anything that was 5 characters, or is it 6? 5. I just stopped thinking. So I just stripped it out, and then I went through and I removed anything that started with a caps because the dictionary had proper names. So that stripped all those out. And then I found that there's plural and ed words. And so on those, I'm just manually changing that in the dictionary myself.
How many words you want to end up with?
As many as, well, you'd be surprised how few there were. I mean, the dictionary I started with had like 100,000 words, and it only generated, with all of it, it was just a little over 16K with the ones that it found. I found the official list that they've used for the actual game of Wordle, and it's smaller than my list. So,
have you thought about writing an article for ZX Zine on this?
Here it comes.
Yeah, there's a couple of there are some offensive words that I might strip out, but I want a large dictionary, so maybe I'll leave them in. I don't know.
So, Greg, are those words like Atari and Amiga and
the offensive ones, Dave? Is that what you're saying?
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
Coco.
Greg, do you think that you'll have this done by midsummer?
Oh, I probably have it done in the next few weeks. So
okay. So the reason I ask is because I'm always thinking about, well, what are we going to show at VCF, right? And we'll have I'm bringing my my 1000 and I'm going to put a couple different. It's got a WESP, so I'm going to put a couple different programs on it to sort of A, demonstrate the 1000, B, demonstrate the WESP. And so I want to have interesting things, not just as much as Carl likes 3D Monster Maze, he can play that in the hotel room.
Come on, man. Come on.
Well, I was thinking of going to VCF this year, so I
Which
might
one?
go to Chicago for that. So
Chicago? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, well.
It's in Chicago, Illinois, the second weekend in September.
Yeah.
Come to California, you can come to VCF in August.
yeah, I did the one in Anaheim last year, and
I did VCF West last year. I plan on going this year, not doing a table, just regular attending.
I'm a heathen. I'm part of the Amiga 40th exhibit. So, and there's never been. I would still want to show Sinclair stuff. There's a complete lack of Sinclair stuff at VCF West in general.
Last year there were two people showing Sinclair stuff. I met both of them. One from Arizona and one from Fremont.
Oh, the Arizona guy normally shows like Jupiter Ace and Weird Tandies, right?
Yeah. The guy from Fremont had a QL and some other Sinclairs.
Okay, cool. So this is a 6A, the one that's from Argentina. Yeah, it's got just some hacks over here.
Yeah, and yeah, it's got, like you said, Chris, some hacks. Okay, Greg, if you're if you're serious about going to Midwest, I'll send out the link that we're using to coordinate. We have a little spreadsheet and stuff. I'll send that back out to the group's IO list.
Yeah, because I have two other projects in the works, but I don't want to tell what they are. Just
okay, cool. I'm excited.
So maybe they'll be done too.
Awesome. I love it. Ryan, I think you said you had something you wanted to show.
Yeah. So, I was hoping to get something together to maybe, or at least one thing together, at least for the show in the fall. And so I thought, well, maybe if I could finally get that game of mine improved a little bit. So I don't know if you've seen the posts I had a little while ago about the define function stuff.
Yeah, and how you made it recursive. You figured out how to do it.
You're talking about Thief.
Yeah, well, I stumbled upon. I was looking. I forget that site. It's one of these. I can't think of what it is now. And they had I was searching around he had a bunch of archive, like old tips and tricks kinds of documents pulled from newsletters and things. And I came across in there was like, oh, it talks about this recursive define function. I thought, well, I've been trying to do that forever and I never thought you could do it. And then it showed how. And I was like, ooh. And so I kept digging. And then it talked, next to that was the one that talked about the thing they call the def add trick, which is basically, that's the name of the system variable that you use with the defined functions. And then it exploited the way that worked to basically copy blocks of memory very quickly without machine code.
Mm-hmm.
And so I played around with that and realized, oh, okay, that might solve my problem, which was I had this game and I did it in a summer a long time ago when I pulled out the Timex years after I had really been using it and wrote a game, but it was all, I never figured out how to do it in color because that kept slowing it down. Figuring out what color is this going to be to display that. And it just, all that overhead kept slowing things down. And so this was one of those games I recovered off the tape. And as Adam knows, I tweaked it a little bit and he and his friend played it some. And so I sat down and figured out, hey, if I can get the color, and I did a test of like, okay, I made the color in a slow process, and then once you're playing the game, I just had the man move around with the ink 8, if you know that. So just use the color that's there. So I wasn't changing anything on the screen. And the play was just like it was before, because it wasn't actually doing any extra work. And so I said, well, okay. Then I'd use this to say, okay, once I generated the color and had that stored, I used this def add trick and it worked. And so it would, once I printed the graphics on the screen, then this would lay in the color quickly. And then I just kind of built on that. And I'll see if this the little share will work. I have no idea if the sound's going to come through. Anyway, of course, you know, back in the day, your title screens and your box art, of course, told you was very unrealistic about the game. My title screen, of course, had color.
And you made this one. You made this in about 1983 or 84.
No, this was 1990. After I had graduated college and I had a semester off, and I just pulled that summer. I just pulled the Sinclairs out to revisit them.
I see. Okay.
And played around with more with machine code and stuff. So, let's see. Are you getting any sound from that? I don't know.
No,
I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah, it may not. It may not come through. I was having some. I'm getting it on my audio card, but I don't know if the share. Oh, wait a minute. Is that an option on the share?
I don't know. I mean, it's not an option on the control thing but I know that you can look at your microphone settings.
Yeah, mute yourself and let's just hear Thief.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. See if that works.
We're not getting anything.
I'm not nothing.
Okay. Yeah, I may not. I know
right.
we'll just go with it anyway.
You have to release the game, Ryan, so that we can all play it and hear it.
So I added a bunch of stuff in and then kept breaking things and adding more things in, and adding in stuff for like being friendly with the emulator of like, okay, don't immediately load the tape. Let me press a key so I can mount the virtual tape if I need to. That kind of stuff.
Good point.
So here comes the color. Boom.
Boom.
And so so you have to print the graphics, and so that does it the same old way. But in the color, it's an array of color attributes that have been pre-made, and that's what the define function trick just blasts into the attribute memory.
Interesting.
And then just tweak things a little bit, added a couple features, but not too much. This was basically heavily inspired, for those who haven't seen this before, it was basically heavily inspired because I was super jealous of Load Runner on the F2. And of course, having a Sinclair, I basically didn't have any software. I had to write all my own software. And so that's what, set in motion all of my everything after that.
Oh, that's amazing. Hey, Ryan, have you considered saving the
Well, I better save it. You're right.
Screen.
No, what?
Saving the initial screen as a screen file. And then you load that in instead of because it would show as color immediately.
Well, yeah, so there was the thought of, okay, if I just gather the data in screen memory, but I needed I need to have a backing store of what the original things were and stuff. And so even if I did that, I'd have to still copy it.
Yeah. I feel like I read an article about how to do what you're doing with your character, your little person. I'm gonna see if I can dig that up for you. It like involved, some XOR magic or something. It also might.
Well, what do you mean to do? You mean just overprinting? I mean,
yeah, putting the guy in and then resetting it to whatever the character was before. I love this rope. It is a rope, right?
Well, or an overhead bar. I don't know. Okay. It's just don't ask too many questions about the logic here, or you can fall forever. That kind of stuff. Hey, it's a video game. What are you going to
do? Hey, maybe Ryan, you can make, if he falls like more than a couple of blocks, maybe a little parachute comes out on the back of him. How about something like that, huh?
Yeah, I'll get right on that. So I had enough trouble when I was like, okay, well,
you ran out of time.
Ran out of time, so I changed that to where, okay, you can replay. I had all these different ideas for some of the game logic. I had to write a whole bunch because there was no help or anything. I had to write all that. Add that in there, so it's like probably twice as big, easily, as it was because of just all that.
This is fantastic.
So then, yeah. So you got your.
You can also make your own levels.
Your key help, your joystick help.
Can you show us that, or is that gonna be separate?
Look at this.
General help.
You.
I tried to keep as much flavor of the original just because it was sort of quick and dirty and quirky of the time. But of course, I had to make levels, so you build in a level editor. I guess we'll just do that one. It should be still there. And so you move around, and then you press the 1 through 7 or 8 to lay down. I could lay down some. Things like that, and move the man where he starts. Whatever. And then you could save these out, or I could just say, oh, let me just go play that. But the slow part I haven't still solved is that I'm still scanning the level for all the treasures.
Oh.
So I got to come up with a better way of doing that.
You could just compile it.
Yeah.
No. That's why I like the def add trick, was because then I was resigning myself to doing machine code, and then this came along and says, well, it's doing the parts that a lot of the parts that are very slow that I would just write a thing that just did some memory copy of anyway.
Do you prefer to play the game or design levels?
Say again?
Do you prefer to play this game, or do you prefer to design a level or edit a level?
Well, I've been prefer to program the game, actually, but
because like the whole Sims game, right? Like Will Wright, he came up with Sims because he created a 2D, like a planar game, like a shoot 'em up, and he needed an editor. And he said he found more fun editing the game than actually playing it.
Oh yeah,
how he ended up with Sims.
I can see that.
Yeah.
No, I need to do. I told on my list is to do a couple of new levels. I haven't done anything except I tweaked a few things on these, but just to try to, I want to make sure that everything kind of solid before. I spent a lot of time trying to optimize the main loop. I have a few more ideas to try to make that faster. I mean, you were really pressed to get. See, now you got to have a strategy here. I'm trying to remember.
What's your
Right. You haven't shown him yet how you die. Like you can get squeezed in.
Well, okay, so
Let's see that.
That is one of the things though, is that one, you can fill in a hole after you dig it. So I simplified that, so if you dig it, if it's dug and you hit it again, it fills in.
Okay.
Instead of separate keys. But so like if you dug and then you jumped in that hole, you were over. So you hold down D until then you die because you goofed up. But then I've added a thing to where you can jump out of a hole, which of course made some of the little traps like down at the bottom left corner of this one here not quite as interesting anymore. And so that's part of why I'll have to go back and tweak some things to see if I want to keep that option or not.
Yeah, I would suggest you get rid of it if you can, because in Load Runner I used to design levels using their level editor, and I used to design levels that were you had to go through them like they were like what you're doing right here. I'm watching you have to make it down to the bottom like before time runs out, and you're quickly doing it as fast as you can. And if you screw up, then you're dead. So it was a puzzle.
Okay, so Ryan, when are you going to feel comfortable with this? In terms of coding.
I think pretty soon I might. Well, I got to try these couple other things, but
I'm going to bet that David is going to ask you to demo it at VCF Midwest.
But I'm also gonna assign Adam to create some levels.
What?
You heard me.
Ooh, Adam didn't see that coming.
I did not. But I could do that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I'll have it released so that for kind of a beta test or whatever.
Okay. You got to give Adam time to design levels.
And so, but like I said, I got everything I think now complete. And like I said, I added the joystick thing in because I figured out a way that wouldn't slow it down very much. That was a part I was afraid of. So I got everything's complete other than needing some more levels. But then I like to tweak, like I say, tweak the game rules, because one of the other ones I changed was.
We just want to bring up our limit here. We've got about 5 more minutes left of the meeting.
Oh, okay,
Thank you, Adam. Because I have a question for Carl. Oh, wow.
The other one I changed, Adam, was if you dig a hole, but there's nothing below it, you can't refill it, because you would need to have support.
Because
that makes sense.
The filling would.
But of course, some of the level design relied upon that. So I may have to change that. But anyway,
just some more constructive criticism for you there, Ryan. When he's digging, maybe he should have like a little shovel.
Where are you going to fit that? There's only so many pixels.
There's only so many pixels.
Yeah,
I know. Okay. I know. I'm just, I'm kind of maybe pulling my inner lemmings, or I don't know.
I do have more. I freed up some UDGs, so I can have a couple of other things. So I might, have a digging man animation, because I have the digging ground animation. So that might be able to happen, because that's not slowing down the main loop, that kind of thing.
Yeah, just suggestions. I'm just kind of to make it a little bit more immersive. I guess
I did think about the parachute, but first things first.
Yeah, the parachute would be cool, because if you're falling, then that kind of gives you an idea that hey, at least it's slowing your fall.
Yeah, but
You could
I'm
open
gonna-
it up to let like multiple software engineers like do variants, like the Lemmings variant or the Balderdash variant, and use it as like an engine like based game code.
Poor Ryan.
The thing is that I got to figure out. Part of this has been in figuring out ways of gaining speed because even though I can now copy the color really fast, the game loop is still really slow. If I add too much of anything else, so.
Well, there's nothing really wrong with maybe a little machine code here and there to help speed
Well, he's
things
trying
up.
to do it in BASIC. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's
Well, I know, I do understand that, but if
Well, but I think that's the important point, though, that I realized was, a lot of the computers at the time. So, like, sure, Sinclair Basic was slow, especially in the Spectrum, because it never, Clive being cheap, never let them redesign it for the extra memory they had and the features and the color and the data they had to move around. And they wanted to do that, and they didn't get to ship that version or finish that version. But you pick another computer, it's got, from the perspective of programming, if speed aside, Sinclair Basic then was like really nice, especially compared to like Commodore Basic and those kind of things, or whatever. Each one had their own weaknesses.
You
But
put
like
your most used utility routines up front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that everyone had something that was a hard thing or a very limited thing, and for the basic programming. And so when the computer would get reviewed from a magazine and say, "Oh, how is it to program on?" They would say, "Oh, it's got this or that," but the practicality was, by and large, almost no one cared because they jam in the cartridge or load the tape, and the game they loaded was in machine code, and it didn't have any of those restrictions, and so you didn't know that the Spectrum Basic was very slow because you were running machine code programs. You didn't know that the VIC-20 had this weird memory layout because you didn't have to deal with it. The programmers dealt with that stuff. And if they needed more memory anyway, it was on a chip on the cartridge probably. So it paved over a lot of those differences like this between the systems of the time. Anyway, that was just an observation.
Thank you, Ryan. That was awesome.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm looking forward to it. Real quick, our next meeting is Sunday, May 18th. So, Mother's Day is clear and free for you. Usual 2:00 Eastern time, whatever time it is for you, and the rest of the world is whatever time it is. I only know about Eastern time. Carl, I have a question from the other walled garden of Facebook. Somebody on Facebook said, whatever happened to that 1510 thing that Carl was working on? It's all locked up in the groups.io list. and I wrote, I was like, oh, so you want me to port content from one walled garden to another?
Groups.io is not a walled garden.
It's not a walled garden.
The guest can go in. Facebook is the worst at being a walled garden.
It is the worst. Yes. I think our messages are
publicly available on our
publicly available. Yeah.
So I checked today, make sure that I didn't log in. I could view every single message that I wanted to.
Okay,
right,
cool.
But you can't. I don't think you can view files unless you're a member. But that doesn't matter. You just become a member.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right, anyway. but files we should put on a website somewhere, like David's. But Facebook, you can view maybe a minute or two, and then they lock you off. So, why don't you get a Facebook account? Because I don't want one. The web wasn't designed for that.
Yeah.
It's the anti-web.
So the question to you, Carl, is if somebody wants a 1510, they want the cartridge, jazz, whatever, how do they get that?
Well,
Don't put them on the spot, David.
That's a good question because I think me and you, David. Well, we've kind of mentioned it in this meeting, so it's nothing official.
Right.
But maybe there's something that we could sell that on your site because you actually have a presence there, right? And I don't have a store per se that I could sell those on, but I mean, since you're already kind of, oh, that's already set up for you, it would be easier, I think, for you. Yeah, I'd have to build them and ship them to you, and you can stock a few of them. But, I think that would be the easiest way going forward. And it kind of does bring up the fact of the software, right? I know Ryan's worked on the cartridge conversion program, and we've done a really poor job, I guess, of I don't know about the documentation. I haven't even used it. I kind of mentioned to Ryan that I have downloaded the Windows version because that's what I use. But so maybe some documentation on how to use it. And I think there may already be that in there. But then we've got a lot of cartridges that are already converted.
Yeah.
And so we need to that's on like a what do we have it on,
GitHub,
Ryan?
maybe?
No, it's not on GitHub. I guess we could do something like that. I don't really have a GitHub account, but it's easy enough to make. It's just on OneDrive or Dropbox, I think, or something that Ryan's got them on.
Well, I had put some of the conversions in that shared Google folder of ours.
Oh, Google,
Yeah,
Google Drive, right?
For you to get at, but the code is on my GitHub.
Okay.
Under the ZX81 utilities.
So,
but I guess that's my point is, if somebody got one of these cartridges, that's fine. And all they wanted to do was play the games that are already burned on a flash chip or an EEPROM.
Right.
And that's all they wanted to do. Then they're happy. Right. But I mean, I'm sure my intention was you could convert maybe your own programs or a program that we hadn't converted that you like. Right. And so, that's kind of the other half of it is, so we need to get that program to convert it, more accessible. And maybe that's another part of the thing, David, with you, you can have not only the hardware for sale, but the software downloads and things like that
some kind
available.
of selector thing that you can say, I want this, that, and the other thing.
Have you
Or
seen
points?
FujiNet?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Have you seen FujiNet? Are you familiar with FujiNet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the guys who doesn't join the Zoom meetings is working on FujiNet for the 2068.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we could point them to like a GitHub or point them to I guess a Google Drive and make it public or something like that. It's just, at least for downloading, right? I don't want anybody being able to upload crap to it, but yeah, that's kind of where, and I've kind of unfortunately not paid too much attention to the 1510 lately with what's going on behind me, but so I need to kind of touch base with that because I know Christian wants to ask me a question about it, and I think some other people are wanting to get some more of those because it's been a little bit.
Yeah. All right.
And
let's
speaking
talk
of
about it on Wednesday, though, you and Ryan, and we'll talk.
Okay.
About, yeah. We'll sort out some details.
But the thing behind me is just a little quick update is I actually got it working.
Sweet.
So it turned out to be, I guess, the Z80 chip. The Z80 chip I was using, I don't know. It's something's weird with it. Because I just swapped the Z80 chip out, and I was swapping chips out so much that I kind of lost track. Other than the ULA, I only have the one. I was only using one of those. So, but I had like 5 Z80 chips that I was kind of swapping in and out, and I don't know. I think maybe this one's got a bad M1, or I've seen some of those on the Spectrum diagnostic tests that I've done. It tells you that the M1 is not working properly.
Maybe we can catch up on that then.
Yeah, but I just wanted. Yeah, but
meeting.
well.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, we don't really talk about this thing behind me on this meeting too much, but it's a,
let's do it.
It's a super.
At the Pico.
Let's do it on Sunday, Carl.
Okay.
We'll catch
Yeah.
up at the
Because
next
I don't think we've really talked.
And
too
you
much
said that
about
meeting was the 18th. Is that when you said it was?
Yep. May 18th.
Okay.
Yeah. 2 p.m.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you
prepare your slide
especially
deck,
to the
Carl.
new people who introduced themselves and told us who they are, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. That really, kind of fleshed out the meeting, I think, for all the new people.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, guys. All right.
Bye.
See you in 2
All right,
weeks.
have a good one.